Remarks of the President to the American Newspaper Publishers Association, Waldorf Astoria Hotel, New York City, April 27, 1961.
Oh my God, Liam's birthday.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate very much your generous invitation to be here tonight. You bear heavy responsibilities these days, and the article I read some time ago reminded me of how particularly heavily the burdens of present-day events bear upon your profession. You may remember that in 1851, New York Herald Tribune, under the sponsorship and publishing of Horace Greeley, employed as its London correspondent an obscure journalist by the name of Karl Marx. We are told that foreign correspondent Marx, stone broke, and with a family ill and undernourished, constantly appealed to Greeley and managing editor Charles Dana for an increase in his munificent salary of $5 per installment, a salary which he and Engels ungratefully labeled as the lousiest petty bourgeois cheating. But when all his financial appeals were refused, Marx looked around for other means of livelihood and fame, eventually terminating his relationship with the Tribune and devoting his talents full-time to the cause that would bequeath to the world the seeds of Leninism, Stalinism, revolution, and the Cold War. If only this capitalistic New York newspaper had treated him more kindly, if only Marx had remained a foreign correspondent, history might have been different. And I hope all publishers will bear this lesson in mind the next time they receive a poverty-stricken appeal from a small increase in the expense account from an obscure newspaper man. I have selected as the title of my remarks tonight, "The President and the Press." Some may suggest that this would be more naturally worded, "The President versus the Press," but those are not my sentiments tonight. It is true, however, that when a well-known diplomat from another country demanded recently that our State Department repudiate certain newspaper attacks on his colleagues, it was unnecessary for us to reply that this administration was not responsible for the press, for the press had already made it clear that it was not responsible for this administration. Nevertheless, my purpose here tonight is not to deliver the usual assault on the so-called one-party press. On the contrary, in recent months, I have rarely heard any complaints about political bias in the press, except from a few Republicans.
Except for a few Republicans.
Nor is it my purpose tonight
to
discuss or defend the televising of presidential press conferences. I think it is highly beneficial to have some 20 million Americans regularly sit in on these conferences to observe, if I may say so, the incisive, the intelligent, and the courteous qualities displayed by your Washington correspondents. Nor, finally,
he's just fluffing it up right now.
To examine the proper degree of privacy
getting loose
which the press should allow to any president and his family. If in the last few months, your White House reporters and photographers have been attending church services with regularity, that has surely done them no harm.
This speech was on my son's birthday. Well, not my son, literal, but the same date.
On the other hand, I realize that your staff and wire service photographers may be complaining that they do not enjoy the same green privileges the local golf courses, which they once dared. It is true that my predecessor did not object, as I do, to pictures of one's golfing skill in action, but neither, on the other hand, did he ever be a Secret Service man. My topic tonight is a more sober one, of concern to publishers as well as editors. I want to talk about our common responsibilities in the face of a common danger.
Common danger.
The events of recent weeks may have helped to illuminate that challenge for some, but the dimensions of its threat have loomed large on the horizon for many years.
Many years.
Whatever our hopes may be for the future, for reducing this threat or living with it, there is no escaping either the gravity or the totality of its challenge to our survival and to our security. A challenge that confronts us in unaccustomed ways in every sphere of human activity. This deadly challenge imposes upon our society two requirements of direct concern, both to the press and to the president. Two requirements that may seem almost contradictory in tone,
Because they are.
but which must be reconciled and fulfilled if we are to meet this national peril. I refer first to the need for far greater public information, and second, to the need for far greater official secrecy. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths,
God, what a fucking liar.
and to secret proceedings.
What a fucking
We
liar.
decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions.
Sorry if I'm not looking at the
Even
chat.
today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it.
No, this is a speech. It was
And there
on
is very
427.
great danger
I can't
that an
remember what year
announced need for
the dates
increased security
at the beginning.
will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control.
Man,
And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes,
He just does that himself.
or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. But I do ask,
And
But
who gets
I
to
do
pick
ask
what we
every
deserve to
publisher,
know?
every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present
disclosure to
danger,
the enemy.
the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security.
There it is.
Today, no war has been declared, and however fierce the struggle may be, it may never be declared in the traditional fashion.
Yeah.
Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger. And yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired.
This could have been.
If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent. It requires a change in outlook, a change in tactics, a change in missions by the government, by the people, by every businessman or labor leader, and by every newspaper. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations.
Now, who's he talking
Its
about?
preparations are concealed,
The commies or
not
the
published.
Jesuits?
Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. It conducts the Cold War, in short, with a wartime discipline no democracy would ever hope or wish to match. Nevertheless, every democracy recognizes the necessary restraints of national security. And the question remains whether those restraints need to be more strictly observed if we are to oppose this kind of attack as well as outright invasion. For the facts of the matter are that this nation's foes have openly boasted of acquiring through our newspapers information they would otherwise agents to acquire, bribery or espionage. The details of this nation's operations, to counter the enemy's covert operations, have been available to every newspaper reader, friend and foe alike. That the size, the strength, the location, and the nature of our forces and weapons, and our plans and strategy for their use, have all been pinpointed in the press and other news media to a degree sufficient to satisfy any foreign power, and that in at least one case, the publication of details concerning a secret mechanism whereby satellites were followed required its alteration at the expense of considerable time and money. The newspapers which printed these stories were loyal,
See what he's
patriotic,
doing?
responsible,
See what he's
and
doing?
well-meaning. Had
You
we
know,
been
he
engaged
talks a lot of
in
shit about,
warfare,
oh, secrecy is so repugnant, freedom, and blah, blah, blah.
but in the absence of open
Then he gets
warfare,
around to his real point.
they recognized only the tests of journalism and not the tests of national security. And my question tonight is whether additional tests should not now be adopted. That question is for you alone to answer. No public official should answer it for you. No governmental plan should impose its restraints against your will. But I would be failing in my duty to the nation in considering all of the responsibilities that we now bear and all of the means at hand to meet those responsibilities if I did not commend this problem to your attention and urge its thoughtful consideration. On many earlier occasions I have said, and your newspapers have constantly said, that these are times that appeal to every citizen's sense of sacrifice and self-discipline. They call out to every citizen to weigh his rights and comforts against his obligations to the common good. I cannot now believe that those citizens who serve in the newspaper business consider themselves exempt from that appeal. I have no intention of establishing a new Office of War Information to govern the flow of news. I am not suggesting any new forms of censorship or new types of security classifications. I have no easy answer to the dilemma that I have posed and would not seek to impose it if I had one. But I am asking the members of the newspaper profession and the industry in this country to re-examine their own responsibilities, to consider the degree and the nature of the present danger, and to heed the duty of self-restraint, which that danger imposes upon us all. Every newspaper now asks itself, with respect to every story, is it news? All I suggest is that you add the question, is it in the interest of national security?
That's all that
And I
matters.
hope that every group in America, unions and businessmen and public officials at every level, will ask the same question of their endeavors and subject their actions to this same exacting test. And should the press of America consider and recommend the voluntary assumption of specific new steps or machinery I can assure you that we will
Machinery?
cooperate wholeheartedly with those recommendations. Perhaps there will be no recommendations. Perhaps there is no answer to the dilemma faced by a free and open society in a cold and secret war. In times of peace, any discussion of this subject and any action that results are both painful and without precedent. But this is a time of peace and peril, which knows no precedent in history. It is the unprecedented nature
Peril
of this
again.
challenge
Gotta love that
also
peril,
gives
man.
rise to your second obligation, an
Best selling
obligation
point.
which I share. And that is our obligation to inform and alert the American people, to make certain that they possess all the facts that they need
All the facts that
and
they
understand them
need
as well.
to be completely fooled
The
and do
peril,
like fucking idiots.
prospects, the purposes of our program, and the choices that we face. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
Wait,
I have
wait, is that what you were just talking about? Oh, God. Round it up with hope.
And the response
Gotta
and
inform those
dedication
people.
of our citizens whenever they are fully informed.
You know, whatever we
Not only
deem
could not stifle
them worthy of
controversy among
deserving
your
to
readers, I
fucking
welcome.
know.
This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed,
accept
and no
responsibility for
republic
its
can
bullshit.
survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental,
Which is, that's all it
not
does.
to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse,
Oh my God, what a
to
fucking
reflect,
joke this is,
to
right?
state our dangers
And everybody
and our
freaking plays clips from
opportunities,
this one because he says
to
secret
indicate our
societies.
crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger. This means greater
Uh-oh,
coverage
Zach's
and
live.
analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign, but close at hand and
I
local.
guess I could probably play that too.
It means
live,
greater
right?
attention to improved understanding of the news, as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels
At all
must
levels.
meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible
What a crock
information
of shit.
outside the narrow.
See?
Circulating right now.
Oh shit.
But I want to start right here with the death of Ashley Bryan, award-winning children's author. He wrote the book Beautiful Blackbird, for which he won the Coretta Scott King Award, named after Martin Luther King Jr.'s wife. But we'll get to the title of the book, the symbolism of the cover. Of course, all colors come from black, and you can see it in the rays off the bird that's in front of the sun. But what I want to talk about is why Ashley Bryan has died on February 4th, Rosa Parks' birthday, in Black History Month, exactly 159 days before his upcoming birthday, what it has to do with this book, and what it has to do with where the Code of 42 being stamped all over Black history, where it comes from, which is clearly the Bible and the beginning of the New Testament and the 42 generations to Jesus. Again, the only physical description left of Jesus in the Bible is in Revelation 1:14 through 16, and based on what's written, you have to imagine he's a darker complected man, and the hair like wool seems to be another clue. But again, Revelation 1:14 through 16, his head and his hairs were white like wool. This is in reference to Jesus. As white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. And he had in his right hand 7 stars, and out of his mouth went a sharp two-edged sword, and his countenance was as the sun shineth in his strength.
It's countenance. Come on, Zach, you're a teacher.
So Ashley Bryan dies on February 4th, a date written 4/2 like 42 in the majority of the world. And he died 5 months and 9 days from his upcoming birthday, or 159 days if you're new here. Taught many times about the code of 42 and 59 and what it has to do with black history, and specifically February, the month that sums to 42 that ends on the 59th day of the year. These are numbers that relate to Jesus in the Bible.
Jesus.
But notice, Ashley Bryan in gematria is 59. Him dying February 4th, 159 days before his July 13th birthday. That corresponds with the title of his book, Beautiful Blackbird. It also corresponds with the gematria of Black Man. And if you were here, you might recall this story from September 15th, 15/9, 2017. All the headlines said that there was a protest over a police officer being acquitted for killing a black man. And you couldn't find the guy's name anywhere. It was just, he killed a black man on 15/9, like 159.
I didn't even try anymore.
And again, here's where it comes together. In gematria, if you're new here, A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4. You just turn the letters to numbers, add up the word. You can also do it by using numerology. If you use the alphabetic order, New Testament is 159. If you use the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, New Testament is 42. And again, the New Testament begins with the 42 generations to Jesus, whose physical description is that of a black man. So this black man is dead on 4/2 in the month that sums to 42, and again 159 days before his birthday. Follow? And again, in Septenary gematria, Jesus Christ is 59, like Ashley Bryan's 50, who's dead 5 months and 9 days from his upcoming birthday as well. And as for him dying at age 98, and the tribute clearly being to Jesus, Jesus was a prophet. Prophet is 98. And see, this is the problem. You know, I know that the comment will come, you gotta be kidding me. The guy was 98 years old, what are you talking about? Old people die. If you're that person who feels like leaving that comment and you even made it this far into the video, please just stop, you know? Because of people like you, you can just murder an old person, no one will question anything different. Well, he was old, he was gonna die. How do you know he wasn't going to live to be 105, this man? You know what I mean? As for who's behind these rituals, we'll get to it again. It's the Society of Jesus, who operates on behalf of the Catholic Church, the Jesuits. Again, the calendar is named after a Catholic Pope, Pope Gregory. We're on the Gregorian calendar, and the English language is credited to the Catholic monk Burford. The language and the calendar are perfectly coded out in tribute to Kabbalah. Again, the Jesuits are Catholic and Jewish. This knowledge of letters and numbers comes from Jewish mysticism, and the way these things merged was in the time of the Protestant Reformation, which was against Catholicism and Judaism.
Stuck.
The movement was to rid Europe of Catholicism and Judaism because people saw them as sinister influences in a Christian society. So this is how the Catholics and the Jews merged, and this is how they, again, rewrote history and have been controlling history ever since. Those were the powers of Europe then, they're the powers of the world now.
I think the merger was
this
long
man died
before
on the
that.
35th day of the year. These are big rituals and big numbers with the Catholic Church. It's not arbitrary that the first Catholic president was number 35, JFK.
34.
As for when the book released, it released January 1st, 2003. So he was an older man when he wrote this book. And it came out 172 days after his birthday. Ad Merum de Gloriam, the Jesuit motto, 172. And look at the
Whoever's
cover.
here
It's a lot like the Jesuit
should
logo.
look into the
sun with
Secrecy,
rays coming off of it.
which equals 201 in
Beautiful black
Jewish
bird,
gematria.
which has this encoding of
But I
New
think
Testament.
that's how Rome and
Jesus, the
I
new
don't know.
sun
I'll go
god
into it
for the
sometime.
Roman Catholic sun cult. It went from Sol Invictus to Mithra to Jesus.
Jesus.
And again, the physical description of Jesus in the New Testament is that of a black man. Look at the Coretta Scott King
one
Award
reference
logo.
to the hair, like,
you know,
I mean, that's kind of
quite symbolic.
reach, but
Mind you, the
whatever.
Illuminati.
I think it
Mind you, what's
matters.
on the dollar bill with the, you know, the pyramid and the eye with the sun rays coming off it, because the eye of God is the sun. The word eye is 35, like Catholic and Holy See, which is spelled like see with your eye. That's why Christmas is 25. The square root of 1225 is 35. And again, before Jesus, it was the birthday of Mithra, and before that, it was the birthday of Sol Invictus, and before that, it was the pagan birthday of the Solar Man. But again, we're the people of the sun, and the people who are the most people of the sun are the people who are the most melanated, which are black people. That's why they don't burn in the sun. Black people often want to say they're the melanated people, but that's actually not proper framing, because everybody has melanin in their skin. It's just black people have a lot more. It's why their skin's darker. But anyhow, I mean, just look at the symbolism of this book, right? Blackbird, written by a black man in front of the sun. The different colors coming from black, because black's made up of every color. It's just like how you make the point. Can a white person have a black child? No. But can a black person have a white child? Yes, they can. They can have an albino like Noah did, or like how Noah was. Methuselah, his albino child Noah. Again, the oldest person in the Old Testament is black. The Old Testament, 39 books. MLK and Malcolm X both killed at age 39. Talk more about it in light of Black History Month. For the record, Coretta Scott King died 87 days from her birthday. Martin equals 87, so does the Catholic Church when you write it out. Remember, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated on the 95th day of 1968, 3 days before the Club of Rome was established. And the reason he was assassinated on the 95th day is because Martin Luther wrote the 95 Theses, which started the Protestant Reformation. And that's why the Jesuits were recognized by Rome on the day leaving 95 days left in the year to counter the 95 Theses. But again, this man's best remembered work is what he ends up dying in relation to. And this is what we see again and again in the world of entertainment and celebrity. When these people die, they die by the numbers, and they die connected to what they're remembered for. Again, Beautiful Blackbird 159, just like New Testament. And again, he's dead 159 days from his birthday. As a black man, when we've seen this ritual before. Too many times. Now, as for dying 4/2, again, one of the big news stories on 4/2 was the death of Amir Locke, supposedly. On the no-knock warrant, they busted through Amir Locke's lock at 6:48 in the morning. Very similar story to George Floyd being killed by the police with the 8:46. And again, 6:48 is Amir of 8:46. This guy's name is Amir Locke, 42. The big story on 4/2. And remember, George Floyd was a Jesuit psyop to divide the people of this world. The Jesuits are behind Black History Month. They're behind every last one of these rituals. And keep in mind, Jesuit equals 42 as well. But Amir Locke with the body cam footage in Black History Month on 4/2. You know, couldn't be any more obvious. And if you missed my call to Keith Ellison's office, the Attorney General there in Minnesota, who synced up with the George Floyd Jesuit ritual and this Jesuit ritual, who is a Jesuit, again, you should listen to that phone call, and you should call his office and give him a similar call. Say, we're sick of it. You know, we had enough. But, again, on this same day, this is the day the Joe Rogan news broke for saying the N-word. Notice the N-word equals 42, like racial slur, like February. Goes right there with what they did with the Amir Locke story. Again, same numbers, same rituals. You run the alphabetic order in reverse. Jackie, Slavery, Tuskegee, Cosby Show, Huxtable, Malcolm X, Martin, they're all 42. Again, Martin lived in apartment 42, and the list goes well beyond that. These rituals mount by the day. And again, India R.E., big part of this. The ritual came 4 months and 2 days into her age. And for Joe Rogan, who's Jesuit-owned, from his birthday to the ritual was 177 days later, like the Jesuit order. And again, that fits right in with Carter G. Woodson, the father of Black History Month. And if you're new here, gematria is based on the alphabetic order, forwards and backwards with the rules numerology. His name the exact same as the Jesuit order in 3 out of 4 ciphers. And like we talked about, Black History Month started at Kent State, established on the same day in history. The Jesuits were recognized by Rome. The year of Black History Month being celebrated at Kent State was 3 months before the Kent State Massacre, which was another big Jesuit rituals we covered earlier this morning. And again, the fact that Black History Month became a nationally recognized thing in 1976, again, it's biblical. Acts 7:6 is about slavery in the Bible. In gematria, slave is 76, Negro 76.
Oh, everyone
76,
took off.
Frost is 76.
Except for probably
Barack
Nathan.
Obama 76. His new book, A Promised Land 76. Acts is the 44th book of the Bible. Obama, number 44, elected 44 years after the Civil Rights Act. His book, A Promised Land, released on the day, leaving 44 days left in the year. It was also 106 days after Obama's birthday when that released, and Black is 106. Black Lives Matter is 106. When you run Black Lives Matter the other way, it's 56, like how he won the 56th election. And now Lori Lightfoot in Chicago has the same birthday as Obama. She's the 56th.
I gotta take Liam out to his mom's too. So price
Not to mention their birthdays are August 4th, 84, and Jesuits 84 as well. But again, all of this stuff is perfect ritual. Carter G. Woodson died on the 93rd day of the year, the day that they now say is Jesus' crucifixion. 2012, they came out and said 4/3 is the day Jesus was crucified, which is interesting because Jesus Christ is 43, but it's also the 93rd day of the year. Crucifix 93, God's Son 93, 93, Malcolm X 93,
Corey
Martin
PA
Luther
93,
King Jr.
Corey
93,
Pennsylvania 93.
Black History Month 93, the father of Black History Month. Again, dead on the 93rd day of the year. And he died 105 days after his birthday. Notice Order of Illuminati. 201 like his name. 93 like dead on the 93rd day of the year. 105 like dead 105 days after his birthday.
This town equals 93 several different ways if you write it. And the story is that it was built on 93 acres of swampland.
Revolves around the sun or Jesus, because that's what Jesus is a metaphor for. Whether you want to believe it or not, you actually don't have to believe it. It's completely apparent. Every birthday of every solar god was always December 25th. But look at this. Look at exactly how it factors in. Here's a story that broke on 4/2 of a mother losing her young black son to gun violence. And reportedly, he was killed the day before, February 3rd, which is the 34th day of the year at age 11. Look at Jesus, 11:34, right? Look at Black, 11:34, right? And then look at the boy's name. The boy's name is Darius Dugas. And look at his name compared to Jesus Christ.
Mr. Dugas.
Darius Dugas, 4374. Exact same as Jesus Christ, 4374.
Huh.
And
Dugas.
notice how Black Lives Matter is 56
Totally
in the most
not a real name.
just like Society of Jesus. Remember, on the day leaving 56 days left in the year, that's the day they released the album of Tupac on the Cross, the Machiavelli album. And Machiavelli is 70, most simple cipher, just like Jesus, just like Cross, just like Messiah, just like Gospel, just like Parables. And notice again, Tupac, when you run Tupac in reverse, 7461 forwards. Jesus is 7461. Cross is 7461. And remember what they did on the anniversary of the Tupac Machiavelli album this past year? Travis Scott had a concert with a big stage that was a cross, and supposedly a bunch of young people died at it. And not to mention, the day that Tupac died, Tupac Shakur, 139, dead on September 13th, 13/9. That's Caesar Borgia's birthday. And that's who White Jesus is modeled after. Caesar Borgia is where White Jesus comes from. You know, get a better image of this. Caesar Borgia is how White Jesus has been depicted after this man.
White Jesus!
Think about it. Tupac, whose last album is him on the cross like Jesus as a black man, dies on his birthday. All of this stuff is so obvious. Again, the Jesuits control everything from the Oval Office to your favorite mainstream rapper to your favorite basketball player. They own this world. They've built this world. They've built this nation from the beginning. That's why there's 56 signers, and the most famous, John Hancock, died by the numbers at 56. They built your religion. 56. They built your government. They built your TV set. They built it all.
Trying to build a prison.
We're living in their world, speaking their language, on their calendar, on their time system. And this is what people need to wake up to. You want to keep believing in their religion, you're just going to be part of their system, invested in their system of lies meant to control your mind and your brain. And it's not to say that there wasn't somebody like Jesus in the past who the entire story is modeled after. It's not to say that there wasn't this great man, this, you know, spiritual man who was about the right things. I mean, those kind of people have existed all throughout history. But whoever this Jesus story is really modeled after, Jesus, it's obvious as everything he was a black man. You know, that's why they keep doing this over and over and over.
Excuse me.
And
sorry, I was eating behind the scenes.
Again, I mean, it's just crazy how time goes by. Because I remember covering this like it was yesterday. I was like, you got to be kidding me, you guys. The big headline right now is a protest down where the Michael Brown thing happened. Michael Brown, 201, like the Jesuit order. Ferguson and Missouri, both equal 42. Again, same stuff over and over, you guys. Ferguson, 42. Missouri, 42. You know, when they first put out the image of Darren Wilson, they had to put him out. That's the Michael Brown killer. They had to put him out. I mean, and from there, this is when I figured out the 42 code, by the way. I didn't understand this until this happened. This is where it all connected. Started looking back at history, and I said, oh my God, they've been doing this over and over. And it's crazy how many times I've had to explain pretty much the same things over and over since then. I mean, easily 1,000 presentations on this topic. But I think this one right here, through this author, through the way they did this, and just the cover of his book, I think this really communicates it. Beautiful blackbird. So, like I said earlier, I was going to try not to do any more videos today because I am working on the book. But shout out to Neo for tipping me off to this, and sorry about this story too. Sometimes I wonder if these stories are completely made up. I'd like to think that they are, that 11-year-old didn't get killed. But if this 11-year-old was killed, there was a reason he was targeted. And
Yep.
Here, I'll just read you this story before we sign off.
Can't put it past him.
My baby didn't deserve this. Mother speaks out after 11-year-old was shot to death at Northeast Harris County apartment. This is in Houston, Harris County, Texas. But again, this child had the Jesus Christ numbers. The family of an 11-year-old who was shot and killed at a Northeast Harris County apartment Thursday night. That was, again, the 34th day of the year, like we talked about. Dead at 11 on the 34th day. Black 1134, Jesus 1134.
Watch me eat.
Has identified the victim as Darius Dugas, a student who attended Cobb's 6th grade campus.
Joking.
His mother spoke to KRPC2 and has a message for her son's killer. The child, affectionately called DJ, was shot in the parking lot of Vireo Apartments, and then they give you the whole address and everything. And there's probably more to it. I'm not even going to decode it. According to his mother, Brunetta Francis, curious name, Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope. The Pope, or the Jesuits, are from France. Brunetta Francis, the family had just arrived home shortly after 6 p.m. So that's the 18th hour of the day in military time. Remember, son is 18. She loses her son in the English language. Son, male offspring, also the object in the sky. And DJ realized he left his jacket and a few other items in the car. The family lives on the 3rd floor of the apartment building, and the child walked down to the parking lot. And again, this is just the thing about how numbers-oriented news stories are. This is how I started figuring this out. Because, you just read this stuff, and you're like, what's with all the insertion of the numbers? These details aren't that important until you realize that these people are speaking in numbers. Francis said about a minute or so later, they heard gunshots. Her oldest son ran downstairs and found his little brother lifeless. He was not going across the street. He was not wandering. He was going to the car where he should have felt safe, Francis said. When deputies with the Harris County Precinct 3 Constable's office arrived on the scene, his family was attempting to administer CPR. Paramedics rushed DJ to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. Witnesses described seeing what they believe was a teen boy with a short afro fleeing the scene on foot.
He looked
He was wearing
like a
white
black
shirt
kid.
and dark sweatpants. The suspect ran northbound through the complex and jumped over a wooden fence, investigators said. So again, they have to give you this story, and my guess is, if this child really did die, this family's probably connected to these networks. Boule, something like that. Like all of Martin Luther King Jr.'s family was killed in Boule rituals. He was Boule. Kobe died last year in a big Jesuit Boule ritual. And understand, behind these secret societies, whether they're for black people or not, behind all of them is almost the Jesuit puppet masters. But notice how the suspect got away. They don't know who he is, but they make sure he was a black guy with an afro running over the fence, jumping over the fence. Francis believes the suspect was trying to rob her son. And does that make sense? Who's trying to rob 11-year-olds? Okay. But anyway, that's the story. And
I love robbing kids. That's fun.
We know why the child was chosen, but here, let me just look at the mom's name just in case there's something here.
Like finding kids
Well,
taking their
the
candy.
mom's name is
And then
interesting
not
because
even
that
eating it, throwing it away.
65 in the Most Pure Cipher, Christianity 65, and so is Knights Templar. And again, that's the original military order of the Catholic Church whose cross is in the Jesuit logo. And again, it's Jesus, right? It's a Christian-related story. But if you have Netflix, the show Night Falls on there. It's actually not a bad show, but it's about the Knights Templar in France leading up to them being burned for worshiping Baphomet. But you'll hear in one of the earlier episodes of the show, they talk about how there's 65 Templar orders in Europe. And by the way, Europe is 35, just like Catholic. So is China. Jesuits have controlled China and Europe for longer than the U.S. has been a nation.
The European
That's
Union.
why Jesuit-educated Trump signed off on his trade deal with China the same day the China virus, as he calls it, showed up in the U.S. It's all a big, sick Jesuit joke for agenda, but anyway.
Jesuit fucking jokes
Yeah,
all day
the
long.
mom's name, Francis, just fits in with the whole Jesuit theme, so. What we really need to ask Mom is, what secret societies is your family connected to? You know? Then we'll find out what really happened here.
I got way better jokes than your fucking Jesuits.
We'll leave it there for now, Truth Seeker. And have a great rest of your day. And thanks for all the likes and the shares. And until next time.
Until next time. Same Zach time, same Zach fucking channel. Oh, I didn't even see fucking Miss Mildred was in there. Fucking gotta love Miss Mildred. Still fucking biggest fan. Or I'm your biggest fan, I mean, the senior one, whatever. But fucking shite. Love you all.